Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, and I'm here today to read you 3 different stories about families. The first book is Lola Reads Tulio, written by Anna McQuinn, illustrated by Rosalind Beardshaw, and published by Charlesbridge. Lola Reads Tulio. Lola's day always ends with a story. Tonight's story is about a little girl and her new baby brother. Lola's mommy is having a baby too. Lola's going to be a big sister. Lola and her mommy read together a lot. Lola chooses stories that the baby will like. Daddy makes new shelves for the baby's things. Lola sorts her books. Some are for the new baby, and some are for keeping. On the day the new baby arrives, it's a brother for Lola. His name is Leo. Lola brings him a soft book for his crib. It is a perfect present. Leo cries a lot. Lola wants to cheer him up, so she tells him a story. It turns out that he is just hungry. Lola holds her best bear story while Mommy feeds him. She and Mommy read it together. Sometimes Leo cries when he needs a new diaper. Lola reads him her best potty book. Sometimes he cries in the bath. Lola reads him her best duck story. Sometimes Leo cries when he is tired. Lola reads him her best sleepy story. She sings Leo a song, then he goes to sleep. Lola's new baby brother sleeps a lot. Lola likes to play with her teddies while Leo is sleeping. Being a big sister is a big job. Sometimes Lola helps her mommy. Sometimes she helps her daddy. The new baby keeps everybody busy. But they are not too busy to end the day with a story for the best big sister of all. The end. Isn't that a fun story? Our next book will be Stella Brings the Family. This book is by Miriam B. Schiffer, and it's illustrated by Holly Clifton-Brown. And this book is published by Chronicle Kids. You can see end pages. Stella Brings the Family. With a hug goodbye, Stella dashed to her cubby and raced to her spot. Mrs. Abbott had a surprise for the class. We are going to have a celebration for Mother's Day, she says, and each of you can invite a special guest. Jonathan and Leon said that they'd invite their moms. Carmen was sure that her mama would come. But Stella had 2 dads. Everyone else had a mother. Howie had 2. Stella would be the only one without a mother at the Mother's Day party. That afternoon, Stella and her clay stared at each other. The next day, Stella worried about the party when she should have been worrying about other things. All week, Stella's appetite was gone. What's wrong, Stella? Jonathan asked. I have no mother to bring for the Mother's Day celebration. No mother? Asked Leon. But who packs your lunch like my mom does for me? Daddy knows just what I like, says Stella. The problem isn't lunch. It's that I have no mother to bring for the Mother's Day party. No mother? Asked Howie. But who reads you bedtime stories like my mothers do for me? Daddy and Papa read stories to me, said Stella. But who kisses you when you're hurt? Carmen asks. Well, that's a long answer, said Stella. I get lots of kisses when I'm hurt. Either from Papa or Daddy, or Nona, or Aunt Gloria, or Uncle Bruno, or Cousin Lucy, but I still have no special guest for Mother's Day. Jonathan asks, "Why don't you invite them all?" "What a wonderful idea," Papa and Daddy said. But Stella wasn't so sure. Soon the children were crafting invitations, decorating, and preparing gifts. Stella worked harder than everyone else. The day arrived. Daddy, Papa, Nona, Uncle Bruno, Aunt Gloria, and Cousin Lucy went with Stella to school. She had so many guests. Stella hoped that it would be okay. The party was better than Stella had imagined. Howie came with his two mothers, and Jonathan brought his grandmother while his mom was away. Stella had the biggest crowd of all. Mama and Carmen, Mom and Leon, Mommy, Howie, and Mom, Jonathan, and Granny, and Nana, Daddy, Papa, Stella, Lucy, Uncle Bruno, Aunt Gloria. Then it says, "Please come to our party." They squeezed into the story circle and made frames for their art. Stella thought the day was turning out fine. In fact, it was better than fine. Papa was a big hit. Later that day, Mrs. Abbott was worn out. Stella told her not to worry. For Father's Day, she wouldn't bring nearly as many people. It says, "Happy Mother's Day." Just two. You can see actually on the last page, Jonathan's starting to worry what he might do for Father's Day. And you can see that they hung up Stella's artwork. That was a great book. We have one more book. This book is called The 7 Silly Eaters, and it's one of my favorites from when I was little. It's by Mary Anne Hoberman, and it's illustrated by Marla Frazee. And this book is published by Gulliver Books. The 7 Silly Eaters. Not so long ago, they say, a mother lived just like today. Mrs. Peters was her name. Her little boy was named the same. Now Peter was a perfect son in every way except for one. When Peter was just 1 year old, he did not like his milk served cold. He did not like his milk served hot, and he liked it warm, and he would not drink it if he were not sure it was not the proper temperature. But Mrs. Peters did not mind. She was a mother, sweet and kind. And when his milk spilled on the floor, she patiently prepared some more. She'd take the bottle from the shelf and chuckle softly to herself, "What a silly sort of eater is my darling baby Peter." When Peter had not yet turned 2, another baby, sweet and new, was born, dear Lucy, small and fair, with big blue eyes and curly hair. But long before this child was grown, she had opinions of her own, of what she'd eat and what she'd not. She hated milk, both cold and hot, and warm was the worst of all. Instead, whenever Lucy dear was fed, she bellowed for pink lemonade. Not from a can, oh no, homemade. But Mrs. Peters did not mind. She squeezed each lemon to its rind. While mopping milk up from the floor and patiently preparing more, she'd take the lemons down from the shelf and giggle softly to herself. What a silly pair of eaters are Lucy dear and Peter Peters. Now Lucy grew and Peter grew till he was 3 and she was 2. And who was 1? Why, little Jack, with eyes so brown and hair so black. A happy baby, never cross, but all he'd eat was applesauce. Peeling apples by the pound, Mrs. Peters faintly frowned. She'd take the apples from the shelf and murmur weakly to herself, "What a silly bunch of eaters are Lucy, Jack, and Peter Peters." Lucy, Peter, and young Jack had another brother, Mac. Mac was charming, round, and plump, but if his oatmeal had a lump, Mac would dump it on the cat. Mrs. Peters hated that. But since she loved her children 4, she'd strain the oatmeal 2 times more. She'd take it from the pantry shelf and mumble sadly to herself, "What a foolish group of eaters are all my precious little Peters." Before another year was through, who came along? Why, Mary Lou. She was a darling, sweet and bright, but she had a healthy appetite. That is, as long as she was fed soft and squishy homemade bread. Poor Mrs. Peters got no rest, but still she did her very best. She'd take the flour from the shelf and mutter feebly to herself, "What a fussy bunch of eaters are all my lovely little Peters." A year rolled by, the children grew. "They really are a splendid crew," sighed Mrs. Peter, pinning pins and diapering her brand new twins. Little sisters quick and smart, impossible to tell apart, but flow like poached eggs and fran like fried, and if she mixed them up, they cried. Tired to the very bone, Mrs. Peters groaned a groan. She'd take the eggs down from the shelf and whisper weakly to herself, "What persnickety young eaters are all my 7 little Peters." Now time went by, as time will do, and as it passed, the children grew. The problem was that as they grew, their appetites kept growing too. But not their choice of what to eat. Each child continued to repeat. They wanted what they had before. The trouble was, they wanted more. Creamy oatmeal, pots of it. Homemade bread and lots of it. Peeling apples by the peck. Mrs. Peters was a wreck. She wiped her brow and heaved a sigh. Another year was passing by. In fact, she realized with sorrow, her birthday would arrive tomorrow. Drearily, she shook her head and wearily went up to bed. She thought the children had forgot her special day, but they had not. At crack of dawn, they all began to carry out their secret plan. Mrs. Peters would be fed a birthday breakfast in her bed, a breakfast made of all the foods that kept them in such happy moods. So while their weary mother slept, down the stairs the children crept, and from the cupboards and the shelves happily they helped themselves. Cheerfully they chopped and stirred, preparing what they each preferred, despite the pains that they took, since nobody knew how to cook. To measure things or make them hot, the more they tried, the worse it got. First, Mac's oatmeal turned out lumpy, which made poor Mac turn grim and grumpy. In fact, the lumps got him so cross he dumped them in Jack's applesauce. This bothered Jack so much that he threw it in the dough of Mary Lou, who tossed the mishmash that made straight into Lucy's lemonade. That put her in such a huff that she poured the icky-sicky stuff into the double frying pan that held the eggs of Flo and Fran, who flung the hodgepodge on the spot into the milk in Peter's pot. But when they saw what they had done, they wished they had never begun. They hardly slept a wink that night, and still things hadn't turned out right. Even though they tried their best, it hadn't worked. They were depressed. They'd be in trouble, too, unless they found some place to hide the mess. The oven seemed the perfect spot. They all forgot it was still hot. They stuck the pot inside, and then they all went back to bed again. The clock struck 6, but on they slept, while their mother softly stepped down to the kitchen, smelled a smell. What could it be? She could not tell. It smelled so good. She sniffed some more and opened up the oven door. She woke the children with her cries, and they all came running in surprise. In the kitchen, what they found was Mrs. Peters dancing around, and in the oven, no mistake, a pink and plump and perfect cake. As their mother danced with glee, she cried, "A birthday cake for me? A birthday cake still piping hot? To think that I thought that you forgot. Now tell me, please, how did you make this pink and plump and perfect cake, so high and light and smooth as silk? "It's smooth as silk from all my milk," said Peter. Lucy said, "I think it's pink from my lemonade, I think." "And from my apples," added Jack. "My oatmeal made it soft," said Mac. "My bread dough too," said Mary Lou. "As for its size," said Fran and Flo, "it was our eggs that made it rise." Then everybody sniffed some more and danced around the kitchen floor. They put the cake upon a dish and lit the candles. "Make a wish," the children cried, "before you blow." And Mrs. Peters did just so. What's more, her wish came true, as birthday wishes always do. And from that day to this 'tis said, the Peters family is all fed just one simple meal. Just one, a meal that's good for everyone. A meal in which they all agree, made from their secret recipe. They all take turns in mixing it. They all take turns in fixing it. It's thick to beat and quick to bake. It's fine to eat and fun to make. It's Mrs. Peters' birthday cake. The end. So those were our 3 books, all about different kinds of families. If you enjoyed these books and you're a Portland Public Library patron, you can go onto our website and request some books to pick up at our PPL to go. There's more details on our website if you're interested in that. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you soon. My name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. See you later. Bye.